The following is a project of our nonprofit newsroom. Support Mid-Coast Morning and local journalism today at chly.ca/donate. Local news doesn't survive without local support.
Hello and welcome to Mid-Coast Morning. I'm Joe Pugh. 3 groups made a pitch this week for a new organization to coordinate bringing affordable housing to Nanaimo. This week at a Governance and Priorities Committee meeting, Nanaimo City Council received an ask to fund a Nanaimo Housing Collective. One of the groups behind the pitch is the Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation, which is the city's economic development agency. There is also involvement from the Housing Nanaimo Working Group, which is made up of members of various community organizations. The third partner involved was the Anchor Corporation, which was represented at the meeting by Bowen Island resident Lieven Callewaert. Together they are asking for $300,000 from City Council to create a Nanaimo Housing Collective. It would have an initial goal of bringing 400 units of affordable housing to the community within 2 years. The committee ultimately passed a motion asking city staff to get more details and report back in the summer. That motion will still need council approval at their next regular council meeting at the end of the month. Today on the program, we'll hear from a pair of the partners involved in the proposed Nanaimo Housing Collective.
My name is Keith Wilson, and I'm one of the founders of the Housing Nanaimo Working Group, which is a group of local nonprofits, developers, realtors, a bank, I guess, and interested community members that are all interested in below-market housing and getting it built in our city.
And you are involved in a pitch for what's being called the Nanaimo Housing Collective. You were presenting to members of City Council at a Governance and Priorities Committee meeting this week. Could you explain what is the pitch? What is the idea behind this housing collective?
I guess the idea behind it is that something needs to be done. The city started the SPO, I think, about 4 years ago, and charged them with looking at all the full spectrum of housing and how to get it moving in the city. They were very effective, I guess, at initializing activity and development around the homelessness issue and getting people with complex issues housed. That's going rather well in the city now. However, there is a below market component for people that just simply can't afford the rents that are in the city. And so our group is focused on bringing together the expertise, the funding, and the technology, I guess, to get that done in the city.
So what exactly is your vision for how this housing collective would work? What would it do, and how would that translate into housing coming to the community?
What it would do is it would bring the parties together, I guess, that are the decision makers and the people that can make it happen. So, in fact, what we proposed yesterday was that 2 members of the Housing Working Group, 2 members of Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation, 2 members of the city, and there's another 2 members somewhere, get together and sit down and map out a plan for where we're going to build, when we're going to build, what that's going to look like, what the target market, I guess, is, whether it's singles or families or whatever, and get a move on. We're talking about doing a pilot project sometime in the next 2 years that would be completed. And basically, our target is 400 homes in 2 to 3 years.
And you suggested in response to questions from city councillors that with that target, there was still a lot to be figured out of, like what kinds of homes those would be, where exactly there would be. Could you tell me about the chicken and egg of this as far as funding? Like what would you be able to figure out further or bring further down the road with this model before you would need, say, Nanaimo to commit dollars to it?
Actually, we're asking for the city of Nanaimo to commit $300,000 to allow the process that you just described to take place. So when we're sitting at the table, what we're going to be working through is what technology do we need, what builders do we need, what financing do we need. One of our partners, Anchor, has access to the technology and to funding, or funders maybe is more correct, that are willing to come together and commit to building in our community.
Now, one of the big things overhanging yesterday's Governance and Priorities Committee meeting was the city is looking to decide what to do with money that it had originally earmarked to the Systems Planning Organization, or SPO. That was an organization that was meant to coordinate the city's response to homelessness. The Nanaimo City Council voted last year to discontinue funding it. A staff report was suggesting that to date, around $1.4 million of city money was spent on the SPO. After it dissolved, they didn't receive any kind of documents or reports or much of anything beyond HR records, and so it was difficult for the city to judge what came out of that or how effective it was. In that context, what would be different about your group when you're asking for $300,000 of city money looking to get some homes built somewhere down the road?
I can't speak for the SPO because I wasn't involved in that, so I don't know kind of what the frames or what the terms of reference were. But I know in our case, we have kind of specific deliverables that we propose that this housing hub would be faced with. And I think one of our slides did show that. I don't have it handy. But I think one of the slides shows that we're talking about kind of a 6-month check-in, a 12-month check-in, an 18-month check-in, where there's specific deliverables in terms of easy ways to measure the progress that's being made. And from my understanding, that was not a part of the terms of reference for the SPO.
Do you have a particular vision or aspiration as far as, if you're suggesting that the goal is to build 400 homes, could you tell me more about what you feel those homes would be or who they would be aimed at?
Oh, I can tell you specifically who they're aimed at. They're aimed at 11,000 people that the Housing Needs Report identified in 2025, I believe, that can't afford rents currently in the city. They're spending at least 35 to 50% of their monthly income on rent.
And the proposal presented to the Governance and Priorities Committee involved a governance structure where there would be folks representing the Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation, that's the city's economic development agency. There would be 2 folks from your group. There would be 2 members of Nanaimo City Council, and then there would be folks from a group called Anchor. Could you tell me who exactly is Anchor and why are you hoping to partner with them?
Anchor is an organization, and you should talk to them to get the full spectrum of what they do. But they're an organization that has experience in bringing people together in other communities in Canada and in Europe to actually tackle this exact problem. So they do have some experience, they have expertise, they have access to technology, and they have access to funding.
And can you tell me, what did you make of how things went yesterday and the response from Nanaimo City Council?
I think I could say it went as expected. We didn't expect them to overwhelmingly embrace something that they hadn't seen before, but we were hoping that they would allow the process to move forward. And in fact, they passed a motion that does exactly that.
And as you mentioned, there was a motion passed basically to encourage your group and Nanaimo City staff to have some conversations so that the staff at a future meeting this summer could maybe present some options to City Council on what to do with this. Could you tell me about what the next couple of months look like for you in terms of advancing this project?
I think probably we will spend a fair amount of time with staff, helping them to understand what it is we're proposing. We will also speak to some of the city councilors, I suspect, to just answer any questions that they might have. And we probably will start talking to the community at large to help them understand what it is we're trying to do.
Is there anything on that front at this point you would like to share or clear up, or even direct people on how they can get more information about this idea?
I, with hesitation, say yes. We're not really ready for a kind of a community outreach at this point, but we do have a website called Housing Nanaimo, I think, .ca. And there is some information there, but very little. This particular proposal has sort of, I guess, developed over the last eight or 10 weeks. So it's been moving pretty quickly, and the website, I don't think, is up to date in that regard.
Well, could you share me what's happened in those 8 or 10 weeks? Kind of where did this come from, and how did it turn from idea to something that was presented to Nanaimo City Council this week?
I guess where I could start is the Housing Nanaimo Working Group started, I think, if I remember rightly, about midway through 2024. Myself and Bob Moss and Dave Whitty got together at one of the coffee shops here in town and had a discussion where we all voiced, I guess, frustration with how things were moving on the housing front. We talked for about an hour and then agreed to go away and think about things and come back. We did that, I think, about a month later. From those two discussions, it became apparent that the focus on homelessness in this city was kind of very well looked after. But what wasn't looked after, and what even city staff's numbers show, is that the below market component of housing simply for people who can't afford to live in the houses that they're living in, nobody was looking at that particular area. And that happens to be about 7,500 homes in town, about 11,000 people. And we could see quite quickly that solving homelessness when people are homeless is one thing, but you've got 11,000 potential people that are going to slide into homelessness if something isn't done to help them afford their homes. So from there, we developed a group that I described to you earlier. That's developers and realtors and bankers and nonprofit housing people sitting at the table. And it was very quickly apparent from that whole group that what was missing was some organization or some person that had the capacity in terms of funding, technology, and know-how to bring all this together to do it to scale, because we need, I think by the city's own estimations, we need somewhere around 600 to 800 homes a year just to keep up. So in our discussions with our group and others, it became apparent that this anchor organization out of, I think we thought they were out of Belgium, could be an option. And then it turned out that Lieven, who was part of our presentation yesterday, actually lives on Bowen Island. He is a Belgian, but he lives on Bowen Island. And so we connected up with him, and like I say, the last several weeks, we put together this proposal.
So is it a fair summary to say that your pitch is basically, at the moment, there is no one really coordinating the creation of affordable housing in Nanaimo at below market rates? And to that effect, certainly the city's own data has shown that there have been very recent years where zero affordable housing units came online in the city. So that's the starting place. You feel that there is no one coordinating this. You feel like you want this group to be created specifically to coordinate the number of affordable homes created in Nanaimo. You want to attach a target of trying to create 400 homes a year, and you've suggested that you're going to work with community partners and also this anchor organization to do that. And your ask is for $300,000 from the city to kind of make it happen and see if you can create 400 homes in kind of a year or two after that. Is that a fair summary of where things are at?
Yep, that's pretty close.
Anything else you'd like to let people know about the project at this time?
I don't think so. Just if you have an interest in this area of housing, I guess you can get in touch with us on our website, or if you know who we are, get in touch. It's something I think that the whole community, once they know the situation, would be happy to get behind.
Well, Keith Wilson, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me about it.
Thank you.
Keith Wilson is a founding member of the Housing Nanaimo Working Group, and he's also CAO of the Nanaimo Youth Services Association.
Midcoast Morning is part of our nonprofit newsroom project, supported by listeners like you. Keep this program on the air by funding it today with a monthly sustaining donation at chly.ca/donate. We've got tote bags and shirts if you need an incentive.
We're talking about a pitch for a new Nanaimo Housing Collective on today's program. The Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation, the Housing Nanaimo Working Group, and the Anchor Corporation are asking City Council for a $300,000 investment to start a new collective. It would be tasked with bringing affordable homes to Nanaimo. The ask came at a Governance and Priorities Committee meeting this past Monday. Multiple councillors expressed enthusiasm about the idea. Many councillors also expressed caution and skepticism. Here are some of Councillor Aaron Hemmons' comments during the meeting.
Okay, I just think it's a really bold statement to say that we could build 300 to 400 units in 2 years at 40% below market rate, but not have land identified, or not to say that that's a secondary step to what we're doing here. And yep. I don't mean that critically at all. I really love new ideas coming forward, and I'm really excited by the partnership I see in front of me. But I'm finding myself just a little bit skeptical because it feels like Christmas morning. If you guys can do this, I want to give you money right now. I'm just curious. I need to understand what the next steps are to validate it for myself.
Well, I think you're right. It is a bold statement, and it may not happen. But I think on one of the slides we talked about in the rest of 2026 was all of those steps are going to be ironed out. It may mean that you come back to council in 6 months and say it's only going to be 150. But that's 150 more than we got right now. So.
Responding to that question was Keith Wilson, who we heard from earlier on in the program. Nanaimo Mayor Leonard Krogh also expressed skepticism about the proposal.
Great respect, notwithstanding the enthusiasm. I don't get too enthusiastic about anything anymore. I've been around long enough, I don't want to pull the old man thing out of my butt today, but I've been around long enough to see lots of great ideas floated by various folks with lots of enthusiasm. That don't seem to end or land well over time.
Ultimately, the mayor was supportive of a motion for staff to seek more information on the project and to present council with options on what to do with it at a July meeting. Mayor Krogh said that if the project were ultimately approved by council, he felt it would represent a change of direction.
This represents a step down a road, which is a fairly major shift for this council. So I will support it for the sake of getting a staff report, but I think council needs to consider very carefully between now and the next council meeting how far we want to go in terms of a change of philosophy. The provincial government, the federal government to a lesser extent, is responsible for housing. The more municipalities step into it, the more costly it becomes for municipal ratepayers who are already feeling the burden. So I'll leave it at that. I don't wish to delay any longer.
You can find the full meeting online on the city's website. I share those comments with you because they'll be referenced in my next conversation. The Anchor Corporation is the only partner in the proposed housing collective, which is not based in Nanaimo. They were represented at Monday's meeting by Bowen Island resident Lieven Callewaert. I got in touch with him earlier this week.
I'm Lieven Callewaert. I'm a community member of Bowen Island. Been living here on Bowen Island for 9 years right now, and being very grateful to be part of this community. And my mission in life also as an entrepreneur is I'm navigating an organization that we call also being social architects. How do we create collaborations around the challenges in society, whether it's housing, health, sustainability, energy? That's the things we work on. And housing has our specific attention because so many things come together there. And Anchor comes out of that whole intention. And Anchor is really focused on how to bring these puzzle pieces together in BC, so we can really create some homes for our future generations, and whether it's the older generations or the future ones, so that we can live in a different way than we live right now. So that's my little summary, Joe.
And Anchor and yourself are one of the groups involved in this pitch for a Nanaimo Housing Collective. Also involved are the Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation and the Housing Nanaimo Working Group. To start with, could you maybe explain to me what exactly is Anchor?
Anchor is what we call an extended enterprise. We are a collective of initiatives and expert centers that all are dedicated to bring affordable and attainable housing to the market, acknowledging that we need financial solutions, technical solutions for building, and another way of managing finance and ownership also in communities. So that's what we are. And we are based both here locally in BC, but also with a big arm in Europe. That's also where I originally come from. So we bridge the kind of best practices of both worlds. And we function like an extended enterprise where really around the projects we come together as a group of experts where needed, but as much as we can building local value. So that's also beautiful that you just mentioned, Joe, that we created in a very quick way an LOI and a collaboration with the Prosperity Corporation and with the Housing Working Group in Nanaimo, because there's such an alignment on values and on ambition on bringing these things to the table. And what we mostly do as Anchor, we foster these collaborations, try to bring value as low as possible. So work together with local parties. And where there's gaps and where there's things needed to bring from our network and ecosystem, whether it's financing, whether it's technologies and technical solutions that don't exist yet in Nanaimo, that's what we want to bring together also. And that's what you heard us mention also to council. That's why we then bring together a housing action lab, really do this in coexistence with each other. Also not claiming that we have the perfect solution, but that we know how to build solutions together. I think that's the most important, humble way of describing us.
When you say extended enterprise, how would you want people in the community to understand that? Is that like basically a consulting firm? Is it like a non-profit agency? Is it like a corporation?
No, we are a corporation. So Anchor is a corporation, and we are a corporation with a strong management team. That's also what we presented to council. There's people that are fully dedicated to that, and I'm co-leading that also with John Kay and with Jay Mathers. So we are an executive team leading our broader team there. And most of the people have dual roles. So in our executive teams, these people are either also directors of a building organization, of a financial corporation. So we are really an incorporated organization. But our team exists out of people that also manage different other organizations, but bring skill sets together. So that's how we also call it extended enterprise. We are an enterprise, a social enterprise, and we are extended because we collaborate very, very closely with people that bring the puzzle pieces to the table. Because we don't want to be one big organization, because that's not that doesn't give the flexibility we need. But we want to be a connected organization where there's true partnerships with adjacent organizations, and that's both BC-based organizations and some global ones.
And what's your pitch for why Anchor specifically should be entrusted with a role on this proposed Nanaimo Housing Collective, working with a couple of local organizations?
That's a great question. One, because of our experience. We've been working with cities the size of Nanaimo, like in Deventer in the Netherlands. We've been working closely also with some other cities here on the West Coast. And so the reason why I came into contact with Nanaimo was especially because also Nanaimo is a donut economics city, is part of the donut economics global network, learning network. We are with Anchor and with one of our partners also, Yes and More. We are also facilitating and leading the donut economics in Amsterdam. We are part of the donut economics in many different aspects, also on the topic of housing and energy. And that's how we came in contact also with Nanaimo. And the way Nanaimo is looking to its future, its strategy, and the way it also wants to approach the housing crisis, is very aligned with our values, principles, and our experience there also, Joe. So that's how we came into contact. And we just looking from Bowen Island to Nanaimo on a daily basis, because it's we are just only separated by a little bridge of water in between. That's how we came into contact. And we truly believe, like, we are not investigating and investing any time on big metropolitans like Vancouver, because that's a completely different way of building. We are interested in cities and regions that want to build for communities and with communities, and that's especially also what we discovered in all of the conversations together with Nanaimo. And so it went in two ways. Nanaimo came to us. We are very interested in how Nanaimo was working so far, and so that's the rest is history. That's how we came together as a collective also on Monday.
And right now, the pitch is all the organizations involved in proposing this housing collective are basically asking City Council for $300,000 in funding, with the goal of, in 1 to 2 years, bringing 400 affordable below market rent homes or units of housing to the community. Could you fill me in on what the roadmap would be between, if you were to get approved for that funding, how you would use that to turn it into 400 homes in such a short time span?
We thoroughly negotiated so far also with staff and with some council members on and with Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation and the working group. The whole goal is to bring together the puzzle pieces, so very specific construction methodologies that can cope with the price point we need in order to bring affordability to the market. So that's one. Choosing together which ones are best suited for Nanaimo, and there's three parties that are eligible for that, also from our network. But the first step will also be with the collective, Joy, to choose. Are there also local parties that can do the same? So always looking to what is possible local. The second one is already starting to see how can we finance this in a way that we are not depending on the subsidies for the province only, because that's a very vulnerable connection, but we want to see how we can collaborate there also with either pension funds, insurance companies, or other ones that have a genuine interest in bringing this affordability to the ground, and with as much as possible, again, local parties that want to invest in these. The fourth pillar, and so that investigating that and starting up the collaboration and the scanning there is also a big part of the start we want to bring in. The city is asked with this 300K is also to bring in the land and see what the land positions are. And one of the questions, a very legitimate one from Bones, was also, well, if we don't own the land, that's absolutely not necessary. So we want to create a land bank with organizations that are willing to provide land to this initiative to bring the affordability to the ground. And the way we want to do that also, so that's one. The way we want to bring these things together is in the collective, is with a very clear process, what we call an action lab. To really create a sprint and a very strict approach on how to bring these puzzle pieces together around the pieces and the plots of land that are available, and then start executing as fast as we can. That's one goal. A very important one there to stress out. It's also the goal with this 300K that we ask now from municipality, to go also for grants that can help multiply this 300K, so that we can activate also the big needs the city and city staff have also on multiplying their efforts towards especially the vulnerable groups and categories in the Nanaimo community, because they are present, and it's also what they communicated to council on last Monday, and I was quite impressed by that. And so that's the second one, also bringing these funds to the table. And making sure in the upcoming half year to a year, once we start with these 300K, is that we have a local governance structure in place together with all the parties that works to not only activate these first 400 units, but that we start building solutions to tap into what you also heard in our pitch. There's a need for 8,000 to 16,000 affordable units in the upcoming 15 years. That's a huge endeavor. If we could do that also, like with the Nanaimo Prosperity Corporation and the economical parties of Nanaimo, by building as much as we can locally, you create an economical engine that helps also create that sustainability point for the future. So that's the 3 points we want to do. It's start building these 400 units with these building blocks. It's bringing grants and additional money to the table, also with local people and local parties, so that we can build a consistent action lab. And with that action lab, also invest into building a collective and a governance for the city so that we can scale.
You talked there about finding sources to finance non-market housing that go beyond the province. Can you point to other examples of housing that has been built that you have worked with elsewhere in other communities where you have been able to find that financing from other partners, and tell me a bit about how you were able to do that and what those partners were?
We just closed a project on 1,200 units, and that's not in BC. That's been in the Netherlands also for a specific city with a pension fund with a very conscious capital rate. And these pension funds have now invested in this housing with the commitment, like exactly the commitment we want to make as a collective with the Nanaimo Prosperity NPC and together with the working group, at an affordable rate that is 25 to 30% below market price on rent in the Netherlands. So that's the commitment they made with their investment, which is huge. The return they ask from the city there, and that's where we brought there also a collective together from the city, from some social organizations locally, from this big investment, that's the pension fund, and then from a builder, is that in return, the city and the social organizations make this what they call a blue zone. So the whole region where we're going to build these 1,200 units, or where they're going to build these 1,200 units, and we facilitate that collaboration there, is that the city and the social organizations takes responsibility for what they call a blue zone. So there's going to be a lot of health initiatives being woven into the whole way that is going to be built. That means health initiatives on walkways, trails, meeting points for people, social facilities around in between woven into the 1,200 units. And that's the commitment the city and social organizations have been making also towards this project. So that's a very specific one. On 1,200 units, that's a 500 million euro. So say it's around 700 to 800 million Canadian of an investment made for a long-term commitment on affordable rent in the Netherlands. And so that kind of way of working is exactly what we build upon, what we've been doing for the last 15 years. And that's exactly the model that we want to also bring to Nanaimo as our experience, but also it's not going to be an exact copy. We live in a different part of the world. We live with different dynamics. We live with a different community. But it exists, it works, and that's what we want to cultivate.
One of the councillors at the meeting said that it felt like Christmas morning, and that if it was possible to guarantee somehow that the city would get 400 non-market homes with just this investment of $300,000, absolutely they would give you the money. But there was a lot of, maybe fair to say, skepticism, where there were a number of questions from different councillors and the mayor around what exactly the model would be or what it would look like. Also, this meeting was taking place in the context of the city is deciding what to do with money left over after it canceled early something called the Systems Planning Organization, which was a group that was tasked with coordinating the city's response to homelessness. The city funded it to the tune of more than $1 million over the course of a few years, and city staff in their report at this meeting effectively said they were limited in their ability to assess how effective it even was. So in that context of the city councillors are maybe worried about investing in something, they just invested in this other group, they're not even sure what it did. How would you suggest that the risk of that happening with this initial investment you're asking for would be minimal?
It's a very... I'm happy you picked that up also, Joe, because on my ferry back home, that's exactly what I was pondering around. And there were two reflections at the same time. There was the reflection of the Christmas gift from the councillor, but that came together with the part you don't mention, that she said it's a bold vision and we need to be bold, but we also need to be realistic. And it sounds too beautiful to be true. My response to that is, and it remains the same, it's like, we don't have a glass ball on how we cannot promise that it's going to work 100% as we envision it right now. We need to collaborate on that. But we do know we built on good practices where it worked. So the Christmas gift, it's not a straight line. And that goes together also with one of the observations of the mayor. And one of his questions is like, he also said, like, I've been seeing too many things to believe in this. Yet I will not stand in the way of approving this motion, because we need innovation and we need to do it differently. And it's true. We cannot. This is not stepping into what we've been doing always, because we cannot. We are at the end of doing it the way we've been doing it so far. But we do know, Joe, that there's none of these building blocks that we bring forward has not been proven. We are not in the time with the current crisis that we can just play around and just be idealistic and create a big, bold vision only. The project has not been meant to build a bold vision. The project is bold in its execution, and that's exactly also where the de-risking factor, and that's what I've been reflecting on the boat also, on the ferry, is we really want to work around this first pilot with these 400 units. And although we don't know how we're going to get there precisely, we do know that we need to get there. And whether it's going to be by the most creative financial solution or the most creative building solution, we need everything we know now locally, regionally, and even more broadly also globally that we can bring to the table. And so what a bold mission needs is a belief. And one of the reflections I had after the observation and the remark and the reflection also of the mayor, I found his statement. I have a lot of respect for the way he was so honest, because that's the way of building. You have to build stability in a city. And so believing in bold, big, idealistic dreams that never come to fruition, you cannot make that happen as a mayor. I have respect for that, but I have a real appreciation for the way he was getting out of the way of hindering the innovation that needs to happen to bring this to the table. And that's the kind of leadership mindset we need from both council, from NPC, from every leader there. We do know that it's bold. All the councillors also admitted that we need a bold vision because we don't have an alternative. But that bold vision comes with a commitment and with sweat and tears and hard work to make it happen. And that would be my response also there, Joe. I'm also very nervous. Oh shit, this is big. But I also know, and that's also why I dedicate my full time, and it's twice the full time also every week. I do know if we crack this nut, and we can demonstrate also for BC how we crack this nut, that we do something that is one very beneficial directly for people in Nanaimo, but also for other ones. And I do know if we do it from a genuinely good space, that there's a lot of entrepreneurs and people around that will support this mission. But it's a tough one. So I'm with the councillors that also mentioned that, where there's two ways of standing in life, and I'm at the opposite end of what the mayor said. He says, I'm too old to still believe in these things. I'm on the opposite spectrum. I'm too old not to believe in them anymore, because if we don't try it, we get stuck in a world I don't believe is our future. And so that's what I want to bring forward next to that.
Ultimately, Nanaimo City Council voted to direct staff to have more conversations with you and the other partners in the group with the goal of maybe coming back with something for them to make a more final decision on in July. Is there anything you would want the public to know about what happens next with this?
Absolutely. I think one thing that I took away is also a deep respect for what staff is building. And so it's very important. You just also mentioned the systems planning organization. So how not to see things as a failure, but as learning. And this is absolutely so what we propose. And that's what I really would love to also share to the community. This is complementary to what the staff needs to do. The staff, non-staff, even not with 40 people, is strong enough to cope with the challenges that are there around housing. So it needs the staff of the city and much more. And that's also where I want to say this is complementary. This is end-to-end. And the staff needs to be able to continue forward. And also this collective needs to move forward in order to make ends meet and to make also to that work. And so what I really hope in these upcoming 1.5 months, what we can bring forward to both council for an approval on the 300K, is that it's not instead of, but complementary to what we can do together with the city staff and together with all of the other parties in order to make it happen. Because we also as Anchor and as NPC and as the working group, none of us can do this alone. Also as Anchor, the last thing I want the community to believe is that we are now having the magic ball and the magic wand to make this happen. We have a part of the solution, but we need everybody to step in and to dial in to make this work together.
Lieven Callewaert, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with me about this.
Most welcome, and thank you for reaching out, Joe. And I wish you a great day on the other side of the water.
Lieven Callewaert of the Anchor Corporation. He's part of a group that this week was making a pitch for Nanaimo City Council to fund a new Nanaimo Housing Collective, with the goal of bringing below-market housing to the city of Nanaimo on an annual basis. The city's Governance and Priorities Committee voted in favor of a motion to direct staff to meet with representatives from the proposed collective and report back with options on how City Council could support a pilot project. That motion will still need to be approved at the next regular City Council meeting. If it gets that approval, staff would be expected to report back with options for Council at a July 13th Governance and Priorities Committee meeting. That's our show for the day. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Pugh, host and producer of Midcoast Morning. Jesse Woodward is our executive producer, and RB Fruit is our technical advisor. You can sign up for CHLY's newsletter at chly.ca/subscribe. If you have a story you'd like us to cover, you can email us at news@chly.ca. Our theme song is First One by local Nanaimo band Waste Management. That's all for now. We'll talk to you on another Midcoast Morning.
This program gives thanks to the Nanaimo First Nation as we broadcast and podcast from their traditional territory. Thanks for listening.